Hello, my name is Terje and I blog over at aheartforwisdom.com. So thankful that you can join me tonight. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day and hopefully, you're having a wonderful evening. So, I was just wanting to come to you and give you a little bit of encouragement for your week, way to start your day and to start that week full of energy, enthusiasm, and to give you some strength along your journey. So, as we go through this time together, I just want you to be encouraged that everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And though sometimes it feels like the end is never going to come, I just want to encourage you that there will be an end and you will be able to see your way out of whatever it is that you're in the middle of at this moment. And so I just want to give you some encouragement from Nehemiah. I've been studying Nehemiah for a little bit. And last week we talked about opposition and how anytime you start something new, there's always going to be opposition and as well as miracles. And so I just want to encourage you that in any endeavor that you're dealing with right now, whether it's rebuilding of whatever it is, rebuilding your life, starting a new season in the middle of something that is dragging on for a long time. I just want to give you encouragement so that you will not give up, but that you will see it through to the end and that you will receive the reward and see the thing that you've been believing for, the thing that you've been standing and pressing for. And so I was just thinking about Nehemiah and how, he started off as a cupbearer for the king. And so his job was pretty important. He basically served the king, and basically he, made sure that whatever the king had wasn't poisonous. There was various things to his duty, but that was one of the main ones: keep the king alive. And so sacrifice your life to help him live his life. And anyway, so he's in the middle of his service. He's doing his everyday tasks and doing his service, serving faithfully. And he hears about something that had happened in his homeland. And so when he hears the report, he's very discouraged. He's very upset. He's in the middle of grieving over the situation because here he is here. He's not there. He's not able to help. And so he kind of feels hopeless at the beginning of it. And so I just want to encourage you that maybe you're in a situation where you've heard some news or you've been through a situation that's been tough, that's causing you some grief. And so I want to encourage you, though, that even in the middle of your grief, God is there. Even in the middle of dealing with whatever situation you're dealing with, God is there. He has answers, and there are solutions for whatever it is that you're facing. And so I was just thinking about how he's a cupbearer. It doesn't say that he was an architect. It doesn't say he had a building background. It doesn't say that he had any kind of, leadership potential. It doesn't say he led people in the palace. And so, but here he is finding himself in this situation where he's trying to figure out what to do. And so I just want to encourage you that maybe you're at that point where you've been doing one thing for so long, and now there's another opportunity for you to do something different or do something new. Be encouraged that when the Lord is leading it, there is always ways to be able to discern whether or not it's him, whether or not it's just a good opportunity or a God opportunity. And so Nehemiah in Nehemiah 1:3-11, and this is out of the Living Bible, it says, "Well, they replied, 'Things are not good. The wall of Jerusalem is torn down and the gates are burned.'" So Nehemiah hears this and he starts mourning and he's grieving and he goes to prayer. Whenever you hit a situation where you don't know what to do, instead of trying to run around like a chicken with our heads cut off, the first thing we need to do is realize that there is help, there is a solution, but we don't have it. If we had it, we would have done something to take care of the situation. So we need to go to the person who does have it, and that's going to prayer. That's going to our Father, because he does care. And so it says, Nehemiah cried out, "O Lord God," I cried out, "O great, awesome God, who keeps his promises and is so loving and kind to those who love and obey him. Hear my prayer. Listen carefully to what I say. Look down and see me praying night and day for the people of Israel. I confess that we have sinned against you. Yes, I and my people have committed a horrible sin of not obeying your commandments." That was how they got into trouble in the first place. And then it says, "Oh, please remember what you told Moses. You said, if you sin, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my laws, even though you're exiled from the farthest corners of the universe, I will bring you back to Jerusalem. For Jerusalem is the place which I have chosen to live." Jerusalem is where the place that God has chosen to live. "We are your servants, the people you rescued by your great power." He says, "Lord, please hear my prayer. Heed the prayers of those of us who delight to honor you. Please help me now as I go in and ask the king for a great favor. Put it to his heart to be kind to me, because I was the cupbearer." So the first thing he did was he heard bad news. He immediately turned to the Lord. He poured out his heart. He poured out his grief, but he didn't let his grief stay there. He didn't stay in that state of just feeling hopeless and feeling down. Instead, he went to the Lord, he poured out his heart, and he got a plan. And so he heard that there was a need, and God placed in him a desire to do something about it. And sometimes that's how it starts. We get a thought, we get an idea. There's something that God places in our heart. And if we do like Moses did and we turn towards the burning bush, the Lord will give us more detail about what it is he's calling us to do. But sometimes we just kind of throw that aside and, oh, that was a nice thought. Oh, yeah, somebody should do something about that. Instead of taking it to the Lord and find out, okay, here am I, Lord, send me. Or here am I, Lord, what am I supposed to do? If I'm supposed to do anything, because sometimes we're not the one to do it. We're just supposed to pray. And so, but he had no clue, Nehemiah had no clue how this was going to happen, because his job was to serve the king. His job was not to be depressed, was not to be upset, was not to be mourning. Actually, that could have gotten him killed. So he knew that he was in a predicament because he's mourning on the inside. He's got to be joyful on the outside, and he's trying to figure out what it is that's supposed to be done. And so I just want to encourage you that never underestimate the place where you are right now. Never underestimate the assignment that you've been given right now, because one assignment may lead into another assignment, or the skills that you learn in this assignment may be helpful for the next assignment. So even if it's not your ideal place or the place that you think is your forever place, take and invest and be faithful with what you had. That's what Nehemiah did. And that's part of what helped him when it came to this moment, because Nehemiah was faithful. Nehemiah was a good steward. The king knew his character, and that enabled the king. God gave that king a heart for Nehemiah. But what would have happened if Nehemiah wasn't very faithful with what he was doing? What would have happened if Nehemiah came in there grumpy all the time? What would have happened if Nehemiah had a totally different disposition and not been faithful and not done his job well? He may not have received the favor that he would have needed for that next stage, for that next promotion. So I would just want to encourage you that even if you feel like you're underestimated or nobody's paying attention to you or nobody's watching, God sees everything that you do. Every time that you do what's right, even when what's right's not happening to you, when you stay in faith and when you keep your faith in him, even though you're not seeing the result of what you're wanting to see, then God takes notice of that. And there is a due time for you to be rewarded, a due time for your harvest to come in. And so again, notice that the king says, hey, what's wrong? The king notices that there's something wrong because it's unusual for Nehemiah to be like that. And so it wasn't a normal thing for him. So the king is noticing, and God gives the king a heart for Nehemiah. Do you need favor where you are? Do you need favor with those in authority above you? Then there's a right way to get it, and there's a way not to get it. The right way to get it is to keep yourself before the Lord. The right way to get it is to stay faithful with what you're doing, to pray and believe God for the vindication if you need vindication, to stand on the word and to trust God for the circumstances to change. So Nehemiah had been praying and believing God, trying to figure out what he was supposed to do. And as he's praying, in Nehemiah 2:1, it took 4 months before he got an answer from the Lord, 4 months before he knew what to do. But in that time of waiting, he didn't stop serving. He didn't stop doing his job. He kept being faithful. He kept showing up. Instead of just going, hey, there's a need, I got to go, and, leaving the king high and dry, or trying to rush out and do something on his own, he waited. He waited on the Lord. He waited for the Lord's timing. He waited for the Lord to open up doors for him, to make room for him, and to give him a place to say something, because there is a right time to say something. There is a time when it's good to make the situation known, but the Lord knows when that time is. And so as we trust him, and this is where trust comes in, because Nehemiah for 4 months was, waiting for answers. He could have just rushed out and said, okay, I'm going to go, I'm leaving, I'm quitting my job, I'm not giving my 2 weeks notice, I'm just quitting, I'm leaving, forget these people. I got a job to do, I got to work for the Lord, Don't do that. And so I just want to encourage you that there is a proper way and a proper timing for things to be done. And even if nobody else understands it around you, just trust the Lord to lead and to guide and to give you place and you room. And so the king, again, noticed that Nehemiah was upset. And so the king says, hey, what's wrong? This is out of your character. This is out of your nature. What's going on? And so before Nehemiah says anything, he quickly says a prayer. Again, he's in prayer. He's bathing everything he's doing in prayer. He's not just rushing out. He's not just blurting out. He's not just spilling all of his guts. He's being led by God to do things at a certain time in a certain way. And so he finally says, okay, well, here's what's going on. And then the king's like, hey, what do you need? And so then Nehemiah, gives him a list of things that he needs, and God gives him great favor to enable him to do this thing that is in his heart to do. And so if there's something that's in your heart to do, know that there's a training, know that there's a preparation, know that there's a building, and God needs you faithful where you are, because where you are might set you up for the next place where you're supposed to be. And as you're faithful, then that's going to open doors for you, because God sees even when nobody else sees. And so again, he gets the king's approval, miracles happen. He gets a leave of his job. He gets to keep his job, but he gets a leave of his job, and he gets provision and all of these, things to help him, to enable him to rebuild the walls and to rebuild his countrymen and to do what God has put in his heart to do. And so God will make sure that you are provided for when you're doing the things that are his priorities. When you're taking care of what is his priority, he'll take care of what's priority for you. And so again, he prays, God gives him wisdom, God gives him guidance. And then it says that, again, he said he didn't rush out and try to make something happen. He just waited patiently. And that's sometimes the hardest part. When you're in the middle, you ever feel like you're playing the game monkey in the middle, or keep away? The kids will do that a lot this summer in the pool. They'll play keep away from each other. And there's the one person in the middle, and there's someone that's trying to keep something away from them. And sometimes I think I feel like that, where I'm in the middle, and not that God's keeping something away from me, but just one door is shut, the other door hasn't opened, and I'm in the middle, and what I'm believing for, it looks sometimes like, okay, how do I get it? How do I grab a hold of it? How do I bring it into this natural? And so the king says, hey, what can I do for you? And he tells him. And so I just want to encourage you, maybe like Nehemiah, you sense the Lord calling you to another assignment, or you sense the Lord calling you to do something, or it's time to move out, or time to do something different. Don't rush out and knee jerk and just do something without having a plan. Let the Lord lead you and guide you and show you the people that you need to talk to, the people who are to, the steps that are needed to take. And sometimes maybe like Nehemiah, what is next on the horizon doesn't seem like it goes with what you're doing, doesn't seem like it fits. Maybe you feel unqualified. And so I read this out of the Rick Renner Sparkling Gems, and it says this, and it's Dunattos. It's a Greek word, tells us that there is power to cause one to become capable or competent for any task. When this explosive power comes onto the scene and begins to operate in an individual's life, it doesn't matter how unfit or unqualified he was before. This power energizes him and makes him capable for the task before him. Once faith has been activated, that's our part. God tells us, put something in our heart. We activate it by faith, by receiving it and saying, yes, Lord, help me. We activate our faith and remains active. Not only do we have to have faith for the beginning, we have to have faith for the middle, and we have to have faith for the end. Because notice when Nehemiah set out to do this task, he set out, but as soon as he did, opposition was right there. And so as soon as you set out to do what God has called you to do, whether it's something simple as clean out your junk drawer or clean out your closet or, go put in an application there or, be faithful where you are. Be kind when that person's mean to you. Don't talk back. Be humble. Whatever it is he's telling you to do, that's how you're activating your faith. And it says that once faith has been activated and remains activated, a person becomes enabled and empowered so that he is capable and competent to do whatever it is God has told him to do. That person can even do the impossible. Friends, we must always remember that when God calls us, he also equips, provides, sustains, and empowers us to do more than we think or ever imagine we can do. So I want to encourage you that even if you sense that, things are changing, and maybe it seems totally unrelated, you don't even know how these pieces fit together, or maybe it looks like you're going backwards instead of going forward. But I just want to encourage you that whatever it is that God's calling you to do, whatever he has you doing right now, be faithful, be encouraged. Know that you can pull on the grace to do that thing with grace, with power, with his enablement, with his ability. And so, Nehemiah sets out and the work begins. God gives him a vision. God gives him the plan. As you step out, as you take a step, God will give you the wisdom. He'll give you the vision. He'll give you the help. He'll give you the resources. They may not all come in one day. It may not all be done in one day. It may get messy before it gets cleaned up, whatever it is, just don't get discouraged. And so again, Nehemiah goes in, and instead of rushing in and saying, here I am to save the day, Nehemiah goes in and he makes observation. He goes in at night. He goes in and at night he starts observing. He takes a few people with him and he starts looking at what needs to be done, assessing the situation, figuring out what will work, what won't work, putting together this plan that God's giving him, being led, not blurting it out to everybody, telling everybody what he's going to do or what he's not going to do and being brash, but being led by God as to what he needs to do. And so I want to encourage you that let God lead you one step at a time. Be faithful with what he tells you to do. Even if he just says, hey, I want you to clean the kitchen. If he tells you to clean the kitchen, then that thing is holy because it's a command from the Lord and it's something that he's given you to do. So don't look at something menial or something as not spiritual. If the Lord tells you to do it, it's spiritual. If the Lord tells you to do it, it's something that's important. And so I read this quote by, his name is Ralph, and he says, a leader will get a vision, a plan, and a program to get the job done. Notice when people make up their minds to work together, opposition and circumstances cannot hinder them from fulfilling what God has called them to do. And so I want to encourage you, again, there is a beginning, there's a middle, and there's end. In each phase, there is always challenge. There's always opposition. There's always trouble. In this world, you will have trouble. But Nehemiah prayed. Nehemiah, every step of the way, Nehemiah prayed. There's at least 8 times that it shows where he prayed when he reached a spot. And so God gave them a plan. They were taunted. They were belittled. They were constantly, harassed, thoughts probably on inside, things going on the outside. How about you? You ever feel like that, being that monkey in the middle, being that person that's in the middle and everything's kind of being tossed up and you're trying to, I want to get out of the middle. And so I just want to encourage you that, they didn't make excuses. They didn't make excuses for what they could do or what they couldn't do. They trusted God. They did what was in their hand to do. God gave them a plan. God gave them strategy. They didn't let the enemy deter them. But they hit a middle point, and they hit that point where they got tired. They were making progress, but then there was a point in time where it was hard. And so sometimes we hit things and we're right smack dab in the middle of what God's called us to do, center of God's will, but it gets hard. Paul knew that. If anybody knew that, Paul knew that. And so Paul was like, hey, I've been pressed, I've been perplexed, I've been, crushed, but I've not been destroyed. And so you may feel like you're being pressed on all sides, but just know you're not going to be destroyed. God will give you help, and he will open doors, and he will be faithful to do what he's promised to do. You be faithful to not cast away your confidence. And so in Hebrews 10:35, it warns, cast not away your confidence. And Rick Renner says the word cast not away, is from the word APOBALLO. So this verse suggests that the people were tired, they were frustrated with waiting on God's promise to come to pass, and they were tempted to chuck the whole thing away. They were tempted to throw away their faith. Have you ever been tempted to throw away your faith? Have you ever accidentally thrown something away and then you had to dig through the trash to try to find it? I've done that. That is not fun. And so I just want to encourage you, don't throw your faith away. Don't throw your confidence in God away. It may be hard. You may be in the middle. You may feel like everybody's pulling on you from every which direction. Things are flying over your head and you're trying to figure out how to get it because it's something that you need to get your work done or to be able to move to the next place. So I just want to encourage you, though, don't cast away that confidence. So he says that they were tempted to chuck this whole faith thing and forget the promises of God that they had been holding on to for so many years. They were beginning to think that living by faith was what had restricted, bound, and kept them in the same place all those years. I want to encourage you. You may feel like, I'm not making any progress. I'm not making any traction. Everybody else around me is moving. Everybody else around me is getting promoted, or everybody else around me seems to be getting jobs, and mine seem to be getting taken away, or however it is, whatever the enemy is telling you. I want to let you know that God is not a man that he should lie, that he is faithful in what he promises he will do. And if we'll do things his way, and if we'll do things and obey, then we will get the desired end results we're looking for. There is always a beginning, a middle, and an end to every situation that you're dealing with. So if you're in the middle, know that there's an end. There is an end to it. Trial can't last forever. Sorrow can't last forever. So this could read like this. Don't discard, dispel, dismiss, dump, or cast off your bold declaration of faith because it has great recompense of reward. Just because you're feeling symptoms doesn't mean that the healing power of God is not working in your body right now. Just because your finances are in dire straits doesn't mean that the word of God is not working. That fig tree dried up from the roots before it went to the fruit. So it starts from first you got to plant the seed, then you get the ear, then you get the blade. So then something pops up. So if nothing's popped up yet, that means that something is happening under the ground. Things are dying. That seed coat, that outer coat, things have to die before the life inside of it can come in. And a lot of times our flesh has to die before the life inside of us can come fully to where it needs to be. So just be encouraged that things are happening. You may not see it yet, but things are happening. So don't fling away your confidence. Hebrews 10:35. For you have need of steadfast patience, endurance, so that you may perform fully and accomplish the will of God, thus receive and carry away and enjoy to the full what is promised. So in order for you to be able to have a harvest, A, you've got to plant a seed. B, you've got to let that seed grow. Don't dig it up. It's tempting when you're trying to be patient. But just know, and I read this out of I think it was the CEV version. I'm not sure, but it's Hebrews 10:38 and 39. But the person who is righteous will live his life by trusting. And if he shrinks back, I won't be pleased with him. However, I just want to encourage you. This is who you are. You are not the kind who shrinks back and are destroyed. On the contrary, you are the kind that keeps trusting, thus preserves our life. So be encouraged that you need to stay in your spot, stay in your place. Let the Lord open the doors. Let him be the one that leads you to the next place, that shows you where to go. But in the meantime, trust him. Be patient. Know that he is not the one trying to play keep away from you. He's not in that game at all. And so if you feel like he's keeping things from you, it's not him. It's not his fault. So don't blame him. Trust him and ask him, okay, what do we do? And knows Nehemiah didn't get an answer right away. You may not get an answer right away, but you trust God that you will get an answer, because James 1:5 says if we ask, we must ask in faith. But he said if we lack wisdom, come, ask, be bold, ask. He doesn't care if you ask, but then believe in faith that you're going to get an answer. So Nehemiah knew the importance of the mission he was assigned to do. You need to know that where you are, where you're assigned to do, is important, and that it has a proper place, and that you are needed. And so it wasn't just for his peace of mind. It just wasn't, for his edification and, ooh, look at me, I'm so, wonderful. Look, I'm going to build a wall. No, it was so that it would help the people. And so your life is not just for you. Your life is to help those people who are connected to you. Your life is to bring encouragement. What God does in your life is not just meant to be kept just for you. It's meant to encourage those around you, to say, hey, look, what God did for me, he'll do for you. Hey, look, I know how you felt. I was in the middle. The door hadn't opened yet. But one day the door opened and it was wonderful. It was better than I expected. So be encouraged that even though you feel like you're in the middle, there is an end and it's going to be beautiful. But don't throw away your confidence. So 1 Corinthians 15:8 says, or 15:58 says, therefore, my sisters and brothers, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. What you're doing, your assignment before the Lord, is not in vain. Raising these children to be, people who change the world, that's not vain. Going to work every day, working heartily unto the Lord with your employer and with those who are working for you, that's not in vain. Keeping a good attitude when other people are not keeping a good attitude with you, that's not in vain. Believing God in faith, being confident that you are being led by God, that's not in vain. Those are good things. And so I just want to leave you with this in Hebrews 13:5b out of the Amplified version. It's Amplified Classic. It's the second half of the verse, and it says, this is God's promise, and this is what I'm holding on to, is that for he, God himself, has said, I will not in any way fail you, nor give you up, nor leave you without support. I will not in any degree leave you helpless, nor forsake you, let you down, or relax my hold on you. Assuredly not. So be encouraged today that even if you feel like your grip is slipping, regrip on God's. Let God grab a hold of you and pull you up out of that pit, out of that miry clay. Set your feet back down on solid ground and get you on your way. You can do this thing. You are not stuck. God is not trying to keep it away from you, but he has great plans for you. But he needs your faith and he needs your confidence in him. So don't let go. Don't quit. You are on the verge of miracles. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope that you are encouraged to have some strength, keep going, and not quit. So be encouraged. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.